I hope with this story, you're trying to grasp of where I'm going with this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our brothers and sisters in Gaza. There's nothing left. They completely destroyed it. Thinking in their minds what Nebuchadnezzar did, I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth. Nothing's going to be left. With Allah's will, it's going to come back. It's known for all of us.
نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله سبحانه وتعالى ومراقبته في السر والعلن. Dear brothers, subhanallah, we all want things right now. Especially these days, we live in the instant gratification generation where you're searching for something, you immediately get it. If your package is delayed a day, you feel that something's wrong. This is not how life is supposed to be. There's a lot of things that needs to take its own time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us examples of this in the Quran. And I'm going to start with a story. And then in the second part of the khutbah, inshallah, I'll try to put it in perspective of what we need to understand. SubhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us an example with Sayyidina Sulaiman. Sayyidina Sulaiman had so much wealth, had a huge empire. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him everything. And with this huge empire, it grew and grew and grew until Sayyidina Sulaiman passed. The generations after, they started letting go of their religion and they started letting go of faith. Only a handful of people maintained it. It came a time about 200 years after Sayyidina Sulaiman, Nebuchadnezzar, a king from Persia, came in and destroyed everything there. It's narrated that he took about 50,000 slaves, killed everyone. There's nothing left. At the same time, in the neighboring village, Sayyidina Uzair, or Uzar, lived there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him, I need you to go to this city to make da'wah. So Uzair, peace be upon him, went there. But subhanAllah, there was nothing there. Everything was destroyed. Can you imagine this? Everything's leveled to the ground, everything was burned. There was nothing left there. So he started building a place for himself to start. But again, in his mind, how would I make da'wah if nobody's here? Most of us know the story, but I'll go through it anyways. He goes to sleep during the day because he's tired from whatever he was doing. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts him to sleep for 100 years. When he wakes up in the later part of the day, in his mind, I slept a day or part of a day. That's normal, just like all of us. Sometimes you know how confused you get when you go to bed and then is it still dark? Is it still light? You have no idea if you slept a day, a whole day, 24 hours, you're just confused. So that's how he woke up. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends him an angel and explains to him that he has died for 100 years. Not only this, he had with him food and he had his donkey or his ride that was with him. His food was dates and something else, teen, and it didn't change. It stayed intact as it is. But when he looked at the donkey, it was all bones. There was nothing left there. So he's like, how did this stay as is and this die? So the angel explained to him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala paused time on you and the food, but he let time go on the donkey.
And he showed him through the process of creation how this donkey was recreated again in front of him. SubhanAllah, it's an important part of this story with this description of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts. Can you imagine if you went to sleep and you woke up and you live in the future and you go walk around and you have, instead of have camels, there's cars driving? Something's gonna go wrong in your head. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let him know that he has died for 100 years. So he goes out and he goes to his old village. He sees everything's there. People are there. Now imagine this, it's 100 years. 2 or 3 generations have come and everything's populated again. Imagine this, I left this, there was nothing there, now it's all built. He goes to his old house and he finds the maid that used to work for them, but she was blind. And he was trying to explain to people that he is Uzair, but nobody would believe him. And they said, this is the old lady, and there was 2 narrations of how the process went, but I'll just go run through one of them. The lady said that Uzair kan mustajab ad-da'wah. His prayers would be accepted. Pray for me that my eyesight is returned. So he prayed for her, her eyesight returned. And remember I said that all faith was lost? Uzair was one of 4 people, period, in the history of Bani Israel that memorized the Torah. So he had his own copy of it. People were trying to question whether you are Uzair or not. So they told him, here are some of the copies. We gave him some of the copies. And they wanted him to recite part of it to make sure that he is who he is. So he recited part of it. And a big portion of it was completely lost. So he was able to resurrect it again. The whole Torah. And he brought it back again. Unfortunately, similar to what happened to Sayyidina Isa, the Jews said, Uzair ibn Allah. He is the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just because what he had is something unique, by our brain you cannot comprehend. Because we're limited in our brain capacity. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and will has no limit. He's capable, kun fayakun. He could do whatever he wills, whenever he wills. So, this is, in summary, the story of Uzair. I want you to think about certain things here. Uzair went there, and in his mind, I am going to make da'wah in a place. But when he goes there, nobody's there. Not a single soul is there. Everything's destroyed. Who am I going to make da'wah to? But guess what he did? Allah ordered him to do something. He built a house. He started building himself. And that's it. That's all he's asking. But he had just a thought in his head. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala let him sleep for that period of time. And the second part of the khutbah, inshallah, I'll leave you on a cliffhanger. But in the second part of the khutbah, I'll reiterate just a small part of this. But I'll bring you to what's going on now. Where we live right now. And how things are. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and me with the ability to implement the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I say this and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us his forgiveness, inshallah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Dear brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, أَوْ كَالَّذِي مَرَّ عَلَى قَرْيَةٍ وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَى عُرُوشِهَا. Somebody passed by a city or a village. وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَى عُرُوشِهَا. The roofs are collapsed. There's nothing there. قال أن يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها. How is Allah going to resurrect this again after it's completely dead? فأماته الله 100 عام. Allah made him die for 100 years. ثم بعثه. Usually when you see the word ثم, it takes time for it to happen. So ثم بعث. قال كم لبثت. The angel told him, how long have you been asleep? He said, قال يوما أو بعض يوم. Part of a day. قال بل لبثت 100 عام. No. You have been dead for 100 years. فانظر إلى طعامك. Look at your food. وشرابك لم يتسنى. Nothing has changed in your food. وانظر إلى حمارك. Look at your donkey. ولنجعلك آية للناس. We're going to make you a sign for human beings. Which it's in the Quran. It's a sign till the end of time.
And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't put these things randomly. He puts these things on purpose in the Quran. It's a lesson for us for forever. وَانْظُرْ إِلَى الْعِظَامِ كَيْفَ نُنْشِزُهَا ثُمَّ نَكْسُوهَا لَحْمًا. He showed him the process of creation of the donkey in front of his eyes. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ قَالَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of doing everything. I hope with this story, you're trying to grasp of where I'm going with this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our brothers and sisters in Gaza. There's nothing left. They completely destroyed it. Thinking in their minds what Nebuchadnezzar did, I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth. Nothing's going to be left. With Allah's will, it's going to come back. It's known for all of us. My reminder for myself and you, it is depressing to go through the media and see what's happening around us. Especially when we're helpless, when there's nothing we can do. But you know what? There is something we can do. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Uzair to make da'wah, to let people know, there was nothing there. He did his part. He built the house. He did what he was supposed to do. Did Allah ask him? No. Allah told him to do something, he did it. Did it happen on his time? Absolutely not. Are we going to get Gaza back and Al-Quds and Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa back on our time? Absolutely not. It might not even be in our generation. But tell you what, you're all young. Your kids might be the ones. We're old folks. But your kids might be the ones. Who's responsible for that? You. Who's going to raise them up? You. How are you going to do that? Without teaching yourself, without knowing our history, without taking care of things. That's our responsibility today. When Allah wills for it to come back to us, it will come back to us. Don't say, I wish I was in a different time. Because Allah picked you and sent you to this time. That's it. He's going to ask you about this time. Not another time, not the future, not the past. My reminder for myself and you. What are we doing now to get Gaza back? Look at the stories of Abu Bakr, of Umar ibn Khattab. Look at how Umar entered the Masjid al-Aqsa. Look at what Salah ad-Din had to go through. You know when he was walking his army? He knew that they were going to win. You know how? Because all of them, all the soldiers, were praying qiyam. They were praying at night. Which for us, when we pray at night, oh my God, I'm exhausted the next day, I can't do anything. But that's what they did. He knew. This is it. That is the generation that's going to do this. So what are we going to do? We need to work on ourselves. Educate ourselves. Try to get closer and closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody knows which generation it's going to be. But you and I will be asked, what did I do? That's it. Even if it's small, don't underestimate what you're doing. Whatever it is, even if it's tiny, you can get a ton of reward. You can remind somebody with something and they become 10 times better than you. You get reward for every action they do just by that little word that you said. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us, inshaAllah Rabbil Alameen, and make us among those who are continuing the connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, building the relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making dua to our brothers and sisters, Gaza, Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, you name it. You name it. We are being taken advantage of all over the place. Hypocrisy is all over the place. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us.
and make us among those who are trying to do what's good, inshallah Rabbil Alameen. قل يا عبادي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب العالمين اللهم انصر إخواننا المجاهدين في مشارق الأرض ومغاربها اللهم ارحم موتاهم واشف مرضاهم وداوي جرحاهم يا رب العالمين اللهم انصرهم على أعدائنا وأعدائهم يا رب العالمين اللهم تقبل منا ومنهم يا رب العالمين اللهم إنا نسألك من خير ما سألك منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ونعوذ بك من شر ما استعاذ منه عبدك ونبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وسلم وأقم الصلاة.